What is up, everyone, and welcome to another Bitcoin market update. In these videos, you will learn how to use technical analysis to forecast price movements in your favorite cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others. So let's dive into it here with Bitcoin on the weekly time frame. First, I want to preface this by saying everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. All right, let's dive into it here on the weekly time frame. So we can see that this weekly candle closes in about 3 days' time. We have right now some declining bull volume coming into this weekly candle close. We'll see where the volume ends up in 3 days. It's still about half a week left for this candle, so we could still very much go above the previous weekly high at 48,310 and continue this trend higher. And I do think that is somewhat likely once we see the 3-day time frame. In just a second here, we'll see why that is. But the important thing I'm watching is this pivot level. Are we going to close above or below this pivot level? And if we do close above this pivot level, that gives us good confidence that this is invalidated, at least for the moment being, as a resistance level. And we'll see how the price fares thereafter in the coming weeks. I do still expect that we are going to be setting a high sometime over the course of the next couple weeks, just because we've already risen, over 65% over the last few weeks. And so it's very likely that we will set a high at some point in the near future, and then we'll come down, and then we'll likely form a higher low somewhere above the previous low here from 29,254. And that's because of that magnitude of the move. Like I always talk about, if we take our measurement tool and we pull this up, we can see we've risen 65%. Therefore, if we were to draw down, for us to make a lower low in comparison to the previous low from 29,000 roughly, we would have to go down about 40%. And that's without stopping. So we would have to draw down and just keep drawing down and go below this low without at least forming a higher low before coming up and forming a lower high, and then maybe a lower low if we were to really start a bear trend. But it's very unlikely to get a situation like this. The only reason this happened was because this is an all-time high scenario. This is a liquidity event. This is where a lot of people were getting liquidated, meaning they were forced to close out their margin positions and lose all of their money. And so because of that, they were forced to sell out of their leveraged long positions, which they took out up here. And so that caused the price to draw down more significantly than it probably should have. So that's what we're seeing on the weekly time frame. So let's go to the 3-day time frame and talk about what we're seeing there, folks. So if we look at this from a 3-day perspective, we can see that the resistance level that I talked about has held up as resistance, and we had this drawdown. I also did say as well that it was likely we would form a higher low on the 3-day time frame, somewhere above the previous low that we set here at about 37,267. So it's a matter of where is that higher low going to be set, and you can see that it was very quick to form that higher low. Right after we got this bearish candle, the next candle thereafter, we got this long lower wick of people buying the dip, and then a nice body for that candle as well, showing us some bullishness. So now we're traveling up, and it'll be interesting to see if we can continue this trend higher and form a confirmed 3-day bull trend with 2 3-day candle closes above this key high here from August 14th. That's what I'll be watching, but in the meantime, what we want to keep an eye on is the single-day time frame and this resistance level right here back in May of 2021 here. So this is from our bear trend, and whenever we're looking for support or resistance levels, remember we're always looking for a trend. In this case, we see we have our bear trend, we have our 4 different elements that we're looking for, which is a high, low, lower high, signifying weakening buy pressure, because the high that was set here, the price was obviously much higher. We drew down, we came up again, but it was weaker than this initial rise because it was a lower high. And then we need the confirmation of a lower low to tell us the momentum is bearish. And that's what we see right here with a lower low and 2 candle closes below the key low. Once we get that, the price continues to draw down. And this last up candle before that down move is our resistance level for price. So that's what we're currently watching to see how price reacts from. And that's up at about $49,000. and it goes until about $51,600. So this level is going to be an area of question. Now, the couple scenarios here that could play out when we get up to this level is we could see the price rise into this level and quickly reject off of it back down below. That's more likely scenario in my opinion, just because we've only tested this 3-day gray resistance level once, and typically 3-day levels take a couple tests for you to break through them because they're higher time frame levels. So I would expect we would get a push into this level, we get a rejection, maybe we come down from there all the way down below the gray level again. That's about 4% trade if that ends up playing out. Another scenario is we come up right through this level, close 2 candlesticks above it, and then retest it as support. Now that's possible, but it's unlikely in my opinion just because of where our last low was. So if we look at where our low is right here, we can take our measurement tool again and we can pull that up, and we can see that for us to do that, we'd have to rise about 18% without coming down and forming a higher low. So I do think, I mean, it's entirely possible for that to happen, but it's unlikely without some sort of run on stop losses or something like that. So we'll see what ends up happening. It's entirely possible, especially given that trend following indicators like the Super Guppy have flipped to be bullish for the first time since back here. I mean, they were bullish momentarily here in May, but really the last time that they were significantly bullish was back here in April, before we had this drawdown, which led to the kind of end momentarily of this bull run that we had here. So now we've flipped these EMAs, and now we have the investor EMAs, the longer term EMAs here, below the faster EMAs, or the shorter EMAs here in light blue. So that's very good for continuation. I would expect this trend to continue in the coming weeks. Once you see this flip, what I'm looking for is a retest of those investor EMAs. That's where I'm going to be looking to buy some more Bitcoin. Obviously, everything in this channel is for educational purposes only, folks. It's not intended as financial advice. So do your own research and figure out where you want to buy your own Bitcoin if you do want to buy some corn. All right. The other thing I wanted to look at was Ichimoku Cloud. So we can see that this is starting to set up for another flip to be bullish here at some point in the future, probably several weeks from now, depending on how the price moves in the coming days. We need this to, the cloud is red right now. We need this to flip to be green, and we need both of these lines, the Tenkin and the Kijun, to cross above the cloud. We need price to operate above the cloud and above the Tenkin and the Kijun. And then as long as the cloud is green, boom, we're in perfect position. And then we see a scenario like this play out. You can see that when it is in this position, it looks something like this. So this is where you get your cross above the cloud right here. You see the Tenkin cross above the Kijun right here. There's your entry point. Once this whole setup is valid, which is right here, you go long there and you ride this trend until these two lines cross back over to be bearish. You're still in the trend. You're still in the trend. I mean, this thing, you're still in the trend. You're still in the trend. Look at this. Here's a buying opportunity off the Kijun, still in the trend. Buying opportunity off the Kijun, still in the trend. And then finally, right here, you're closing your long right up at about 53K. So you went long at about, if you were riding this up, you went long at about, $11,000. So you went, about 5x on that one if you rode that trend up. So that's nice. That is nice. So if this sets up again like that, where we get a reset of kind of consolidation, and then this flips from being red back to green, and these lines cross above the cloud, that's something I'm going to be watching for. I will 100% be going long if that ends up happening and holding that for basically until the Tenkin and the Kijun cross back to be bearish. So that is that. Pivots. If we talk about the pivots, we can see that the resistance level here, the R2, is inside that red level, and that will be valid up through September 1st. So that'll be an area to watch for potential resistance. If we go all the way into that level, that might be where we reject off of to form our higher low in comparison to here, and then come up and form a higher high potentially. But it'll be interesting to see if we even get to that level in the near term, just because we're going right now into a resistance level for the first time. And that's this yellow resistance level right here from our bear trend. So we had a high, low, lower high, and then lower low pattern here with 2 candle closes below the key low right here. So this last up candle before the down move is going to be our resistance level that we're looking at. And you can see that we had some nice volume coming into this level, increasing bull volume, but we're going to need follow through from the bulls to go push right through this zone and close 2 candlesticks above it to turn this into support. Otherwise, we may see a rejection off of this level in the coming days. Because it's a 12-hour level, it could be over the next day or two. And then we'll see, likely a higher low being set somewhere above the previous low here, just because we already have bounced about 8.4%. So it likely will form a higher low, but we'll see. And then you can see that the 8-hour time frame, we did have a bounce off of this purple level that I've been talking about for quite some time now, twice. So we bounced off of this here, and here we grabbed the stop losses below here and had what's called an SFP, or a swing failure pattern. And this is where the price swings into a low or a high and then closes back, if it's a low, back above it, or if it's a high, back below it, signifying that stop losses were triggered right here below this low, so that big players could fill their positions and then push the price up thereafter. And that's what we're seeing right here, is this push up thereafter. So we had a bullish SFP here, and then we had a nice rally thereafter. So now I'll be waiting to see how the next 12-hour candle closes and how this trend develops. If we look at this from a super guppy perspective, you can see those investor EMAs held up once again for a nice couple bounces here. So still just riding the trend and still giving you opportunities to add to your position. If you went long down here, you're obviously still in the trade, holding that. Here's an opportunity to go long again. Here's another opportunity. Here's another opportunity, and then likely will continue higher. So this trend looking very good. Picture perfect way to ride the investor EMAs all the way up a higher time frame trade. This is the 8-hour time frame, so not really a higher time frame, but riding a mid time frame trade up to the heavens, folks. All right, that's all I got for this one, guys. If you like this video, give it a like down below and subscribe for future educational content around cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. And if you haven't already, check out our beginner technical analysis course that we released on Leutheria.com. This is where you can learn all of the different elements related to technical analysis to get started, which are things like candlestick analysis, volume analysis, support and resistance, like we talk about in these videos, technical indicators, the bulls and the bears, and a ton of other stuff related as well. So if you're just getting started in the crypto asset economy here, that's a great resource for you to check out. It is 20% off. You can use the link in the description below to get that discount. And until tomorrow, folks, onward, and guess what? Upward.